Hi team, welcome to my session on Coffee with Prabh, and today we're going to discuss about ISMS 27022 end-to-end implementation. It is a kind of a special series which I'm doing where I'm covering each and every practice steps in detail, but in this video I want to give you the holistic view, okay, a practical holistic view how 27000 works. And if you understand this, then only you can able to understand my next video series. So in this video we're going to discuss about the overview, but more from a practical aspect, so at least you have visibility. This video is completely different from other videos which is there on the YouTube where they talk about the slide base and all that, but here in this video we're going to discuss about actually how 27000 works, and it is based on the 2022 standard. My name is Prabh Nair, and for more information you can check my LinkedIn profile. So if you're new to the channel, do subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to make sure you should not miss my future videos on a similar topic. So without wasting a time, let's start with the first part. Thank you. Before we basically start with the ISMS concept and all that, I want to give you a very high level overview. ISO 27001, okay, because I'm assuming you already been through multiple videos, so I don't want to again deep dive into the slide based theory and all that. So the basic criteria for this video to watch is you need to have a high level understanding of 27001. So it is an international standard that specify the requirement for establishing, implementing, maintaining the ISMS in the organization, which cover your cybersecurity and information security both. And in the 27001 standard, we basically have a clauses. We have clauses. We have 4 to 10. Okay, they are the specification within the standard outline the specific requirement, which is expressed with the verb called shall. Whenever the word shall is there, it means it is a mandate requirement. So 4 to 10 clauses we have in 27000. It is mandatory for you to comply no matter which kind of a business you have. That's the most important criteria. And also in 27001 we also talk about the what is called we have a annexure or annex which talk about the detailed controls which we need to implement in the organization. So total we have a 93 security controls which is organized in the you can say 4 category. One is called organizational, second is people, third is physical, and fourth is technological. Again, I'm telling your team, I'm assuming that you already have a high level understanding. So if you have understanding, then only you can able to understand this video, because I'm not going to again discuss about those theoretical metrics and all that. But if you really want to understand 27001 before watching this video, I will share some 2-3 descriptions or 2-3 videos in the description. You can check that video before check this video. Now in understanding way, so example like I bought any TV. I bought any TV for my house, but I bought a branded TV. There's a difference. So branded is a word which is used to metrics. It's a standard. So you can say, imagine like you're building a house. So blueprint for building a secure house. Okay. Blueprint for, so this is your house. Okay. You want TV, you want AC. You can buy any TV, you can buy any AC, but tomorrow in the market, when you say I have a branded TV, I have a branded AC. So there is a one metrics we are using to judge the quality. And this is basically where we are introducing a standard, which is followed across the world. So blueprint for a building, a secure house, or outline the essential needed to protect your valuable belonging in the house. That is called as a standard. Now clauses are the chapters in the blueprint that specify what components your house should have. Example, strong wall, secure doors, and alarm systems. And Annex A is just like a toolbox containing of various security tools and equipment, like we need to require lock, we need to require fire extinguishers, we need to require camera. So that is called Annex A. So 27001 standard is a blueprint. In that blueprint, what should we have? Which is called a strong wall, secure doors, but that should be protect with some controls. The controls capture in the annexure A. Now to obtain the certification, okay, in the organization, we are using this standard. So organization obtain the certification against the standard, and at least this 4 to 10 clause should be there. Now there are some basic terms, okay, we use in a 27001. Okay, one thing we need to understand is when it comes to 27001 certification, they offer two type of certification team. They certified individual also, okay, and they certify organization also. That's why you heard about sometime organization are 27001 certified. So that is called as an organization certification. But the question is, there will be a folks who implement this control in the organization, then only you obtain the certification, right? So we also have an individual certification. Individual certification is two type. One is called as an auditor certification. One is called as an implementer certification. The implementer is the one who implement the standard. An auditor is the one who audit that standard. So how to audit this standard? Okay, we have a dedicated certification for that. And how to implement the standard in the organization, we have a dedicated training or dedicated certification we have. So that's why the overall certification is divided in two parts: certifying individual or certifying company. Okay, so we are using some basic terms in 27001. So during the 27001 implementations of the controls and all that, you will be surrounded with these three terms, and I've seen a lot of people get confused with that. That's what I'm telling you. A lot of videos are there which talk about everything, but they don't talk about the basics. So first is called as a document. So document is the information and medium on which it is contained. Okay, let's say example, a policy. So company creating a policy. Okay, so it's a formal statement such as policy which outline the company approach to protect the information. That is called as a document. But in the policy document, we're talking about minimum requirement, 8 character, lengthy, complexity. That is called as a specification. And there is a file that log all the access to sensitive data, the artifacts which state the system is configured with the password. That is called as a record. So when we're doing an audit, okay, we ask for the record. We justify you have a specification and document. Is it clear? So that's something you need to understand. Okay, so summary is that document is a broad category that include any information stored in any medium. It provides the instructions, policy, procedure, general information. Specification, a specific type of document that lay out precise requirement that must be met. And it is more directive, stating exactly what need to be done. And third is called as a record, a subset of the document that specifically capture the outcome or evidence of an action has been taken. Okay, so they are used to prove that something was done, such as completing a training sessions or conducting an audit. Is it clear? So when we're doing an audit, we ask for the records. So when we say this is my company, okay, I want to implement cybersecurity. I can implement cybersecurity by my own practices, but I want to claim that I have everything which is required for the international best practices. So based on experience I can do, or based on a standard we can do. So we have a multiple standard. ISO 27000 is one of the standard. NIST 800 is one of the standard, but ISO is become more popular. That's why we believe that standard is basically acceptable on the worldwide. Same like you have an iPhone and you have a OnePlus. Okay, when we say brand as a standard, we follow iPhone. Technology as a standard, everyone wears this called OnePlus. So standard is an English word. It's all about the uniformity. What is a common we have to follow across the organization. Is it clear? So here, one common security practice we have to follow within the company by which I can able to compete in the market. That is what 27001. Now someone is reaching out to me for the CISSP or CISA. Why? So CISSP, CISA is a certification I did. So between you and me, the body which you trust is IC2 and ISACA. Understood? You don't know me personally. Neither you met me in my childhood things and all that. Neither you met me in college. I want to take a training from Prabh Nair. I want to take a training from a trainer name because he's certified. So here, the quality of instructor here judged by the certification. Same like the quality of the organization cybersecurity practice judged by the certification. So you cannot simply claim on the mic, hey guys, my company has a great cybersecurity practice. But on the other side, you can claim and say, my company is 27001 certification. And this is a certificate which build the trust between you as a client and as a vendor, or you as a vendor who's selling a solution. That's why this kind of a certification and attestation like SOC 2 and all that, it's getting recognition in the market. Okay. So let's discuss with the case study how the 27001 implement in the organization. Thank you. Okay, so we have a case study here. I want to implement 27001 2022 in aspirant consulting firm. The company is aspirants, location is Noida. They're doing consulting and information security training, and their objective is to implement information security management system according to 27001 2022 and achieve the certification. Again, I'm telling you team, this video, definitely it is a detailed one, but it give you the high level end to end thought process how to implement. Okay. In my further video series, I'm going to discuss each and every clause with the same reference. Okay. Don't ask me for Prabh, can you share this template and all that. Agenda is not that. Agenda is to basically help you how to create a template, because every organization basically has a different thought process for templates. So the reason of introducing this video is to guide you how to create a template, not to ask for the sample of template. Okay, we have a lot of template in the market, but you should know why we're using the template. What is the reason of component? So that is why in every video series of 27,000, we're going to discuss each and everything from a certification point of view. Okay. So remember that this is the case study we're going to follow in the entire video. Okay. Aspirant company, they want a certification. They're primarily into the consulting and information security training. Now I have seen a lot of people sharing their white paper. Okay. These are the list of questionnaire we need to ask, or these are the list of data we need to ask. See, client does not have a time. Okay. What you see in theory is completely different from what is happening in the practical. There is no white paper directly or indirectly help you to achieve the certification. They will give you this information, boss, we have a company and we are into training and consulting, not to let me know how to implement. Based on that only, we have to drive the certification. We need to ask some more 5-6 data, which I'm going to discuss in the further slide, but this is the high level information you will get. You cannot expect a 50 questionnaires response from the customer. Otherwise, they will change the consultant. And do let me know in the comment box, do you agree with that or not? Because security start with keep it simple principle. Exactly. Okay. So let's start with the first part. So some of the templates, you have to maintain some basic template which is used in all the projects. So one of the most important template is your project management template. And this is not something I have created from a scratch. You go to Google Drive, okay, and there is a option we have create a doc. And when you're creating Excel sheet, they will ask you, do you want to use existing template? So in this case, what I did, I used the template called Gantt chart. Okay, so I basically use Gantt chart and they give me this default template. Okay, so you don't need to create from scratch. And I just renamed that as ISMS implementation project. What I did is basically I document this the ISMS project activity. So here you can see everything is same, project title, project manager, company name and all that. So here, like, when we're starting any ISMS 27001, we have a series of activities. So first is initiate the ISMS project. So project manager has been appointed, start date, due date. Then we conduct the management awareness where we talk about, why we implementing, then secure management support. Then we define the context, define the ISMS scope. Okay. And we're giving a start date and due date. If we're running out of time, so example here, the start date is 18. And if I basically add the due date, suppose today. Okay. So duration is become 2306. So it become 90%. So I'm just giving example here. So here we have a, suppose start date is basically today. So due date is basically suppose this one, the 2305 become a duration. So we can have this kind of an activity. Okay. Now here we can give a 24. So it become 5, or here it become 27. So it becomes 7. So here we're talking about duration. So this is the activity I'm going to explain you in the next entire video series. Okay. So first step is initiate the ISMS project, where we're giving, okay, what is the date? So every activity you need to document. Okay. Then conduct the management awareness. Definitely when you appointed as a consultant and all that, you need to explain about the importance of 27001. This is also a one common template you have to maintain. In my next video, I'm going to explain that. Then secure management commitment. It means their sign off approvals are basically there. Then understand the organization context. Organization context vary from company to company, internal, external issues we have. Then ISMS scope. So ISMS scope, how much time you take? So you involve the project manager, and then once you have a scope, now here I've seen a lot of people get confused. First we do scoping, or when we do gap assessment. See, until unless you don't know scope, what we need to certification and all that, we cannot go for gap assessment. So first, and this can be the interview question also, first what we need to do first. So it is always good to do scoping first, because we need to have a clarity. I want a certification for the particular region. So we have a multiple locations. Example, like we have a locations in India, we have a location in USA, and we have a location in Bangladesh. So according to the cost is also vary. So until unless we don't know the scope, it is difficult for us to do the gap assessment. So based on the gaps, we identify risk. Okay. So we have to create a risk management process. We conduct a risk assessment, and then we develop the statement of applicability. Statement of applicability is basically all about the list of controls, what we need and what we don't have. Then we develop the policies, develop the supporting procedure, we implement the control, and then we conduct the awareness sessions. And then we monitor the ISMS, conduct the internal audit before I prepare the company for external certification, conduct the review, treat the non-conformity, implement the continuous improvement, and prepare for certification audit. One of the best way to obtain the client confidence is that in the first client call, explain this entire process. So it gives them visibility. Oh, okay, the consultant is explaining me in this way. So if you can create such kind of a template, a project management template and all that, it gives them visibility about, okay, each and every activity performed by whom and what is the start and end date. So it gives a positive impression. That's what I'm telling you. This video is not like other videos we're talking about slide and all that. This video is a practical how to pitch customer 27001. So my humble request is that at least create this template so that you can reuse this template for all the projects. Okay. And this is the entire activity we're going to discuss now. Okay. So we are in a week 1, and the first thing, if you want to start ISMS in the organization, we need a management commitment. Okay, it is not something you directly go for scoping and all that. So my first objective is to get the top management, okay, or on board and formally start the ISMS project. So in this case, what we used to do is, first I need to have an awareness session. It is more like a pre-client call and all that. So here, me as a consultant is going to explain the aspirant's company, and I will meet the CEO and senior management to discuss the importance of implementing 27001. So normally in reality, you going to explain this to CISO. If you're working as a company running as ISMS services, 27,000 services, you explain this to the CISO. You will going to emphasize on how the certification will enhance the client trust, open the new market opportunity, improve the internal security practices. And one humble request, never ever give any kind of a superficial commitments which can lead to the issue later in the project. This is something I learned from my previous projects. Never ever give. I will give an example of that. Prabh, can I implement 27001 in 1 month? Normally, if you see the standard, it will take 6 months. Can I get a certification first and then implementation? So this kind of, if you're going to commit this, because you're talking from a customer point of view, okay, because you don't want to lose the customer, but doesn't mean, you should spoil your reputation. Okay, so never ever give a superficial commitment which can lead to the issue later in the project. Here you can create one slide which can be used for all the customers. Okay, because 27,000 importance you are explaining to everyone. Okay, so this is the slide you can create for everyone. So in my first video, after this video, I'm planning to explain that also, what should be the ideal content, okay, in that particular slide. So CEO will sign the formal commitment statement. CEO recognize the value and agree to allocate the necessary resource, and formal commitment statement is a sign and appointing a project manager from the IT department to lead the ISMS project. So with that, with the 27,000 consultant, we can have an IT person also. And make sure the management commitments and project charter are formally documented and we have a sign off. So in this situation, we creating a project charter. Okay, project charter in which I will document all the ISMS activity, and we get a sign off from the management. So this is the first thing we are doing. Okay. Now, what kind of a document we are creating in this particular stage? That's a question. So first is project charter we're creating, where we draft the charter, outline the scope. Okay. Objectives, roles, responsibility. Let's say example, I'm implementing this 27,001 for the Noida office. So I will give the scope is head office is Noida. Okay. Objective is achieving the 27,001. Okay, that's not telling you. This video is more realistic, practical. Okay, so objective is Noida office. Noida office. Objective is achieve the 27,001. And the role, what we have here is the role can be anything like IT department lead the implementation and all that. And then we get a approval on the scope that demonstrate leadership support for the ISMS initiatives. So this is basically the document we create in this particular stage. Now, once we get an approval, then we have to move to the next level. Okay, so scope has been created. I'm not talking about the ISMS scope. This is a scope is talk about where we need to implement. Okay, so project charter is a very high level document. This is not a ISMS scope charter. It's a project charter which talk about outline the scope, objectives, because ISMS itself is a project. Now, once we understand the ISMS I want to implement for the Noida office, their objective is to achieve the certification, then I will basically do the detail analysis. Okay, this is a very, very important phase. Okay, that's what I'm telling you, a dedicated video I'm making on this. So here, once I know the scope, okay, the scope is Noida office, they are into consulting training, I need to understand the more about the organization context. Okay, so here I will understand the internal external factor which affecting the organization. Prabh, what is the meaning of internal external? Now, internal and external basically all about within the company. So internal issues, like we conduct the SWOT analysis. What is a strength? What is a weakness? Okay, opportunity, threats. So we do the strength SWOT analysis to identify the internal strength, like what is a skilled workforce, existing security policies, what is a weakness, like lack of formal risk management process. And this is something you will able to understand when you do the interview. Okay, that's why we first examine the artifacts, then based on that I will do interview, and then we do the test. That is a simple principle we follow in audit. So before you do that, you will ask for the documents. We'll discuss in my first video. So here I will conduct the SWOT analysis with the management team and identify strength like skilled workforce, existing security policies, weakness such as lack of formal risk management policy, process, and everything. That is called as an internal issue. Now, one important tip as a consultant, okay, how you do that? So you will start reviewing the company's organization structure, which include identifying their key departments. Like in this case, they're having a training division, they have a operation divisions, they have a IT division, they have a HR division, they have a finance division, they have a sales division. And we as a consultant will assess the company culture. And there are some questions which I normally ask, who is the hierarchy? What is the hierarchy of the company? Who are the key stakeholders within each department? What are the company's core values and culture attributes? Okay, so here, now let's example, I ask one question. Okay, so I discover, as a consultant that in aspirants, they have a flat organization structure with a cross-functional team which collaborate closely. So the culture is a fast pace, but in the fast pace, there is a possibility they focus on innovation, but that the strong focus on innovation which sometimes lead to the shortcut in security practice. Second thing, during internal issues, I review their policies and procedures. Okay, I discover they have a data protection policy, but it's not been signed off properly. So I will ask some question, what policy procedures are currently in place? Are these policies up to date? Okay. Third is I will try to find that, okay, the company has a core policy on cloud, but it is not been effected. They don't have an effective incident response procedure. These are the internal issues, okay, which could not able to achieve the business objective. Okay, then I will identify the external issue. The company, the company basically in Europe, they're doing a business in Europe, so they have to comply with GDPR. They have a register in India. They need to be comply with IT acts. Okay, sometimes change in the regulations, change in the norms will impact their business and all that. So that we document as a external issues. Okay, or sometimes change in the dollar price impact their market conditions. So those are the examples. Okay, market conditions are there. Like, here I will consider as I examine the competitive landscape, okay, which include how the market trends, client demands, competition impact the company information security practice. No, I want from tomorrow training. I want recording. Okay, so if I share the recording, it's basically disclosure of intellectual property. Are we sharing the intellectual property in a secure mechanism? Understood. So this is some kind of questions I will basically ask to understand their external issues. Okay. How do market condition affect the company information security need? What are the competitors doing in terms of information security? Okay, so this is something we create. So once we have internal external issues, we create one document which is called as a ISMS scope, in which we document these issues. Okay, what is the internal issue? What is the external issues? So that is something, a document we create in this particular stage, which is called as a ISMS scoping document, in which we talk about the name, purpose of the company, what is the internal issue, what is the external issues, okay, what is the assets need to be included in 27001. So all are basically part of this initiation planning. And this is basically where we're talking about the clause 4.3. Okay, where we clearly define what will be included in the ISMS. One important principle I would like to share everyone. Any department, any system doesn't hold sensitive data directly, indirectly will not be part of a scope. I repeat, any system, any department, directly, indirectly, is not involved in the information security, we will not add in the scope. I have seen that a lot of people struggle with that. Prabh, how to include the scope? Okay, so it is good if you can create a context analysis report, but it's not mandatory. It is not mandatory. You can use this data to create in the scope. You can add this information in the scope when you're defining ISMS scope. Okay, so project manager with the input from a consultant, okay, they define the ISMS scope to include the key departments such as IT, HR, finance, training, okay, of the Noida office. And we can also have a consulting services, right? So the company also have a consulting services. So that also provide to the clients, okay, but are not certain, non-critical. So we can exclude that. So clear definition helps to focus toward the ISMS implementation. So that's why very important here. So I will explain you. So what I did is I identify that, okay, they have a department, and based on that, we're creating this scope document. So I will explain you with the example. So I will first identify the critical information assets. So let's say example, my company, InfoSec, or the company aspirants they have. Now they have a website from which they collect the email ID. They have a CRM in which they store the information. So they know that, okay, these are the critical assets which store the sensitive information. So as an ISO consultant, we begin by identifying the critical information assets which they need to protect. Okay. And this include the customer data, intellectual property, employee records, and financial information. So Prabh, what question we're going to ask? What type of information are most critical to the business? This is I'm going to ask to the business team, which information assets are essential for the operations? Okay, so they will reply me, okay, Prabh, we have a customer database that is contain personal data, software code. So I believe these assets are vital to the company operation. This must be protected. Then I will add it. I will ask the second question, where it is stored. Or is it stored in CRM cloud, or is it stored locally? Okay, so we have a main office in Noida and all that. So I will ask, what are the critical information asset located, where it is located? Is there any specific site or environment that should be included, excluded from the scope? So this is how I ask the question. Okay, so what we create in this stage is we document the first document called ISMS scope statement. Okay, that is the first thing where we in which document I will document about the organization areas, department, and system which is covered by the ISMS. So that's something part of this phase. So ISMS scope document to create, and it is mandatory as per the certification. I will give you explanation. I will give the explanation of this again. My company is into website into e-commerce, collecting a data that's part of a scope. Okay, the server is located where? In Noida office. That is part of a scope. Okay, so I will ask some great questions by which I can able to create a document. So this is the mandatory. Okay, for a certification, you must have a ISMS scoping document. It's a first document that we create in which we document everything, internal, external issues, scope, okay, the manager details, document versions, everything. So in my first video, I'm going to explain you this is how you create. So this is the first document where you document the data, assets, resources, internal and external issues, everything in that. Okay, so it's a first document, it's mandatory, and this is we creating as per the clause 4.3. Okay, 4.3. So once we're done with that, we have to move to the next level. So now the scoping has been done. Now what is next? They have a current infra, they have a data, they have structure, everything. Is it educate as per the 27001? Do they have a appropriate controls? So this is basically where we do the gap assessment. Gap assessment is all about current state. Okay, assess against the desired state. And we get a visibility how much we are ready. And we have a different way to do the gap assessment. Okay, checking the maturity, weakness, and all that. So gap assessment is the next thing we do once you finalize the scope. Okay, because it is not necessary, you have to start from zero. So as a consultant here, I will begin by reviewing the specific requirement of 27001/2022, okay, which including the clause from 4 to 10. That is my first benchmark I have to do, okay, and the annexure controls. And this review ensure that consultant is fully aware of the what standard is required. So let's take example is I ask one question is what are the specific requirement 27001/22 that organization need to meet? You know, are there any particular clauses or the control especially relevant to the organization context? So here the consultant review the requirement of 27001 and paying particular attention to clause related to the risk management, clause 8 related to operation security, clause 5 is information security policy. Okay, as per the clause 5, do you have a policy? Do you have a risk management? Do you have operation security controls? So this is basically I'm doing gap assessment. Is it clear? So that's the most important part. So when a consultant is, just give me a second. When the consultant review the existing policies such as data protection, access control, 27,000, so it discovered that ABC or aspirant has some controls in place, but they don't have a formal risk assessment response process. So at least we got a visibility, we need this. Okay. And this is basically consult document these gaps and provide the recommendation of the improvement. Okay. Now let's say example is as a consultant, I will collect and review all the information related documents. Okay. And based on that, I will ask some question is, what are the existing documents are available that relate to the information security? Are these documents up to date, aligned with the current business practice? Understood. So here the consultant gather documents such as complete data protection policies and everything. And based on that, they validate. And then we check, is this current practice is fully, partially or not or meet the 27001? And what is the gaps we have? Okay, so that's something we can consider. And we also check what are the specific elements are missing. Are the process need to be developed from a scratch or required minor changes? And then we basically prioritize the gaps. And this is basically where we prepare the next report, which is called as a gap assessment report. We highlight the gap between the current practice and 27001 that we need to close. Is it clear? So this is something required for the functions. Okay. And when we basically preparing this report and all that, okay, we have a key questions like, is this report clearly document all the identified gaps? Okay. And are the recommended actions practically and aligned with the organization context? Because you cannot give any kind of superstitious recommendations and all that. Is it clear? Now, let's take example, we include the section of 27001 clauses, clause 6. So clause 6 we have. So we need to develop the risk management plan, which is missing. It's not there. So understood. So consultant here review the gap assessment report with the key stakeholders, okay, and validate the findings and ensure the agreement on the next steps. So that's the most important part we have. So in gap assessment report is reviewed in a meeting with the senior management also, which include directors, department heads. And after discussion, all parties, we agree on the identified gaps and we prioritize the actions. And management commitment to provide the necessary resource, address the high priority gap first. This is the exam things and this is a very important part. Okay. In the interview also they ask, we have a lot of gaps, how to prioritize. So we identify those which is basically have a high priority. Okay. So days 9 to 11 is basically all about conducting a gap assessment and prepare the report. So now you have done with the gap assessment and you identify like what are the list of things are missing as per the clause and what are the list of controls we need to implement. So definitely once you identify gaps, you need to identify what is the threat and vulnerability that trigger the gap and what is the risk associated with that, because risk management is the most important base of the ISMS. So once you're done with that, the first thing you need to adopt the clause 6.1, which is called as a risk management process. Now in some companies, what they do, they first create an information security policy also. See, information security policy itself is a control also. So it's up to you. You can first create a policy which document the objectives and all that, or we can do first with the risk assessment. Okay. So risk management is a clause 6.1 where you establish and formal the risk management framework, where you will develop the methodology that include identifying assets, assessing threats and vulnerability. And we also establish some kind of criteria against which we evaluate the risk, include likelihood and impact. So in my next video, when I'm going to cover the series risk assessment, because risk management is a very important part. Okay, so we're going to discuss further on that. So we're creating a score. Based on a score, we basically take the call how to mitigate that particular risk. And having a risk management process is a requirement of the ISMS 27001 certification clause. So we're creating a risk management plan, which outline the process for risk assessment, including criteria for evaluating risk and plan for addressing them. Before doing a risk assessment for the gap assessment, okay, we need to have a risk management process as a document. Now, once we have a process, definitely we need to perform a risk assessment. So as per the clause 6.1.2, we have to do the risk assessment. Now, for your knowledge, we have a different type of risk assessment. We have a process-based risk assessment. Just for a reference, we have a scenario-based risk assessment, and third is basically called as a asset-based risk assessment. It's up to you, whatever the assessment you can apply. Process-based risk assessment, let's say example, the aspirants are basically into training services. That is one of the process. Okay, hypothetical scenario. So the risk that we identify is loss of proprietary material or disruption of online session. So treatment is strong access control to different go-to-meeting portals or web online meeting portals are required. So this is called as a process-based risk assessment. So when you work for the big and complex companies, there we do the process-based risk assessment. Second is called a scenario-based risk assessment, which is easy to perform. Scenario-based assessment is we creating a scenario. Suppose phishing attack occur, which lead to the data breach. So risk identifies loss of sensitive data, financial loss, reputation, and treatment is phishing awareness training. Or when you're working for the small companies, we do with the asset-based risk assessment, where we identify, okay, customer database is important, training database is important, risk is like, unauthorized access to data, corruption of data. So treatment is multi-factor authentication. So we basically carry 3 type of risk assessment. So if you're working for the big companies and all that, I highly recommend process or scenario based. If you're working for the small companies, for small companies, if you're doing any kind of an assessment and all that, then we can go for the asset-based risk assessment. So we identify the assets. So in my case, I identify in the aspirants that there is a critical asset such as customer databases we have. Okay, employee records are there, CRM system we have. So we identify threats, we identify vulnerabilities. Okay, simple table we create is we identify the asset name. Let's say example, the asset is basically called as a customer database. Okay, then the threat is basically like hacker tried to hack. Vulnerability is like no control, no firewall, and risk is basically disclosure of data. I'm just creating a very simple table. Okay, so when I'm going to cover in my next following video about risk assessment, I will show you how to create the Excel sheet. So we identify, we evaluate the risk, and we create one report which is called a risk assessment report. It's very important to have this report, which signifies we doing a risk assessment. So it is act like a evidence also. Okay, so we have to make sure all critical assets are identified, assessed, and missing key assets can result in significant risk. And keep the detailed record of the risk assessment process, because auditor can ask for this evidence. Okay, so this is called as a records that we need to have when I'm doing an assessment. Now, see, after doing a risk assessment, we get a visibility about the list of possible risk and all that. Okay, and now we have to go through the next step where we need to prepare the SOA, statement of applicability. One thing is that statement of applicability is a crucial. It is a crucial document in the 27001 implementation process, because it outlines the specific control from the Annex A, okay, that are applicable to the organization based on the result of risk assessment, and it provides the justification why each control is included or excluded. Now, SOA is basically tailored as per the business function, and it ensures the ISMS is practical and directly aligned with the organization objective. And when you're adding a control or when you're removing controls, so you have to give the justification for exclusion also. So SOA provide you rationale for including and excluding. So I will give you an example. Okay, so you get a better visibility how we do that. So normally what happens, we review the risk that is identified during a risk assessment process, and then we select the appropriate controls from the Annex A. So let's say example, if the risk assessment identify high risk of unauthorized access to the customer data, so organization might select the control like multi-factor authentication. One of the risks we identify that we're sending a data over the network in a plain text. So from the Annex, we need to identify the list of control like data encryption, multi-factor authentications, or an encryption. Annex 8.10.1 is required. So for each control in Annex A, the organization document whether control is applicable and provide the justification. From another example, let's say example, we exclude the control related to the physical security of the server room, okay, which is called Annexure A.11.1. So if all servers are hosted in the cloud, justifying the physical access managed by cloud provider, so it's removed. So we're giving a justification here. Okay, so please listen carefully. Risk assessment is about identifying, analyzing, evaluating risk. But risk assessment produce a detailed report on the identified risk. So we prioritize by the potential impact on the organization. Okay, so here the most important part is we start with the risk assessment results. We focus on the high priority risk. We have to give special attention to high or medium risk. Okay, and if we found, okay, unauthorized access to customer data is there, which is a high priority risk. So here the key will be, we need a control here. So we review the Annexure controls. We have 114 controls or 93 controls, whatever is there. We have to go through each control in the next and determine which can basically mitigate to reduce this risk. So as a sender, like unauthorized access to data. So Annex A, such as 8.9.4.2, which is called secure login process, or 8.10.11, which is a cryptography controls. can we use? And then we evaluate the context. Okay, we see some controls maybe mandate due to the industry requirement, like GDPR requirement is there, like European customer data said that, okay, you need to encrypt the data. Okay, so we have an annexure for the A.18.1.4, which talk about privacy and protection of PI information. So it is not only about risk, but we also see legal regulatories and everything. And then SOA will list down each controls, indicating, your controls and everything. And according to that, we will validate that. So control selection is very important here. And the document we create is a list of controls, which is select from Annex A and provide the reason for their selections or exclusion. It's very important. Okay. So that something is part of this particular process. Now, once we create the list of control we need, one of the control we called as a policy. Definitely policy is the base. Policy is the most important governance of the ISMS. So ISMS itself foundation based on a policy. So policy is the first thing we need to create. So we develop the information security policies. Okay, that's the most important part we have. So when we're talking about policy, it outline about, okay, the aspirants, consulting, business objective, legal requirement. That's why we're creating a policy. Because if you review the GDPR, GLBA, DPDP, they will say, okay, information security requirement should be documented. So that will be captured in the policy. Okay, so we set the objectives like, okay, we're reducing the incident by 50% within the year. So this kind of a thing we talk about. So we have to make sure information security policy align with the organization objective. You should set the objectives clear, realistic. And policies are like a management statement. Okay, so any kind of further control you're implementing in the company, you have to start with the policy first. Okay, so if you're doing an assessment for the current company, they already have a policy, then this step is removed. Okay, because during a gap assessment, we identify policy is not there. So according to clause 5.2, policy must be there. So here we document the information security policy and information security objectives. Now we are in the next week. So we're talking about the same thing. We develop the policies and everything. Okay. And we're moving to the next thing is called supported policies and procedures. That is also required. So we need to create a detailed procedure to support the ISMS. So here we create a detailed procedure, like we develop the policies for a specific policy like access control policy, incident management policy, data classification policies. And each policy should have a cross reference with relevant Annex A to ensure it basically comply. Because again, any kind of a control you're introducing, it should be backed and supported by the policies. So document we're creating during this time is access control policy is required, incident management policy is required, data classification policy required, backup procedure is required. So all those things will be there. So which is part of your week 6 and 7. Then we are moving to the next part, which is called implementation of a controls and awareness, which is in a week 8 and 9. Here we're talking about one of the clause, but once you have a create a policy and other policies, we will going to address other risk and introducing a control. So here we have operation planning and control, which is called clause 8.1. So here we put the selected controls into the action. Okay, we implement the controls, directly address the risk identified during an assessment. So let's say example, we need some controls, technical controls. So by implementing a technical controls like firewall, encryptions, and administrative controls like policy audit, we can ensure the comprehensive protection, and procedure like regular internal audits, access reviews need to be established. So document is here we're creating a control implementation record. So we provide detailed record for each control, implement and help to track the progress, accountability. So that is basically we are in a week 8 and 9. Then after implementing the other controls, we need to conduct the awareness sessions for the employees. You have to document that also attendance and everything, because this is how you can able to improve the behavior of the people. Because once you implement the technical control, once you introduce a policy, you need to educate people also. Okay, you need to educate people also. Like we have implemented this control, we have introduced the ISMS, and when the auditor comes for an audit and all that, he will ask about the email communication about your awareness training. So it's very important to maintain this clause. It's very important. So we develop the training materials. Okay, we conduct the training, document the minutes of record and everything, attendance sheets and everything, because it will be required as per for the certification requirement. So training records include attendance logs, training materials, feedback forms. All those are basically important part of the things we have. Okay. And by showing the training records, you can demonstrate the compliance 7.2. Now we are in a week 10 where you monitor and measure the ISMS performance. Okay. As per the clause 9.1. So regularly you need to monitor, allow the organization to detect and respond to security incidents. So we establish the metrics like KPI and all that. And the consultant will be advised on the tools and techniques to monitor this metrics. So the document that we create during this time is monitoring and measurement records, which record your logs, incidents and everything, audit performance and other data. So that is basically improve in every 6 months and all that. And they can ask for the evidence for that. Now you are in a phase of this one, which is called as a planning and controls. So we are moving to the next part, which is we verify the ISMS compliance. We develop the internal audit. Before we prepare the company for the external audit, we do the internal audits where we check the compliance 27001 standard. Sometime what happened, company hire you in this stage. Okay, we have implemented this. Can you just check and everything? So we have an internal audit before we go for the external audit. So internal audit reports include the summary, finding, non-conformity recommendations. So all those things will be done in this particular stage. And then we verify the ISMS compliance. Okay, because conducting internal audit is also part of a 9.2 clause. So consultant will develop the internal audit plan and they are conduct to check the compliance with 27001 to identify all the non-compliance and suggested corrective actions. And we creating a document report like internal audit report, which summarize the findings of the internal audits, including the non-conformity and everything. So that's something's part of a requirement. Now, once we're done with that, we go for the management review. Okay. So management review ensure the senior leadership is actively involved in overseeing the ISMS. So this reports when you send to the management review that. So we need this email as an evidence because auditor can basically ask for that. So consultant here compiles audit reports, performance metrics and incident logs, and management team will discuss the ISMS effectiveness and that will be captured in the minutes of meeting. So this is basically also act like as an evidence. Okay. Minutes of meeting include the outcome of the review, decisions has been made and action has been taken. So that's something's part of the function. Now we are moving to the next part, which is called as a treatment of non-conformity. Definitely during an audit, we identify some gaps. When the control is not meeting as per requirement, that is called as a non-conformity. Okay. So we need to correct all the non-conformity, which is identified during an audit. So here we work with the ISMS team. Okay. And we do the follow-up audit to ensure corrective actions has been taken. And we creating a report, which is called corrective action report, which detail the non-conformity, which is identified and corrected actions has been taken. Now, once you're done with the treatment of non-conformity and all that, we go for the continual improvement where ISMS basically evolved, improved continuously. We use the feedback forms. We conduct the training sessions in security incidents. And according to that, we update. So this is something we document. So whatever the changes has been documented, we document as a record, because when auditor come for an audit and ask for, okay, this change was introduced in a document version ID or version ID number. So with the help of number, we need to trace and provide the deliverables. So you have to document the changes which is made to improve the ISMS and ensure the clear records of how the systems evolve over the time. That's something part of the requirement. Finally, once the control, everything SOA has been implemented, we prepare for the external audit. So we prepare the company for an audit. Okay. So here what happened, the consultant ensure all documentation, policy, procedure, audit report is been complete and up to date. It is always good. You can create one Excel sheet in which you document all the document details and all that. We do the mock audit again to conduct the simulated certification process. Okay. It is always a good if we can do that. Okay. To check the last minute issue that could affect the certification audit. And then through thorough preparation, we basically build the confidence among the ISMS team. And we ensure that all aspects of ISMS are reviewed and we confirm the organization to ready for the certification. So this is basically part of the final documentation review report. Okay. And then based on that, we release the audit report. So there are some mandatory documents that need to be have in this certification, like ISMS scoping statement should be there, policy, risk assessment methodology, risk treatment plan, SOA, information security objectives, internal audit programs and report, corrective actions, and management review and meetings, procedure document for key controls, whatever we have. So this is something is a mandatory document if you're looking to achieve the certification. So this is all from my side, team. Do let me know, how do you find this particular video series? Do you feel this is different from other videos what you saw? Because in this I have given you the entire roadmap process end to end, how to implement. Now in my next video, we're going to discuss about the first part of the 27001 is how to create this scoping statement. Then next video, how to write policy. Then how to do the risk assessment, risk treatment plan, how to scoping the SOA, what need to be included. Then these three as part of my next video. Then we have this. So now I'm going to split each and every activity in detail and explain about each and every process with the reference template. Okay, it is a long process. It will take years, but by the December or by September, I will release all the videos in a weekly basis. So this is all from my side. Do let me know how do you find this video. I'm definitely waiting for your feedback, because your feedbacks are help me to improve my particular videos. Thank you so much. Good day. Bye.